All right, we are recording. Like I
Hello.
said, this is hi. How are you? Yeah. This is Adam Zembruski. We have Kelly Ray of Sunshine with us. We are new friends. We met on school.com, SKOOL. That's a very new thing for me, Kylie. I'm learning. I think it's a what drew me into that was the whole community aspect because um, I technically am like a coach, but um, uh, some people call me a consultant. People call me a hotel asset manager. Some people call me a hotel operator or a manager, mentor. I mean, there's a lot of different names going around there. I just wrote a newsletter article about the fact that we just make up names now because yeah, I'm the director of hospitality at a real estate company. It's like, what is that? Like, isn't everybody the director of hospitality? So you are in the, can I say where you are?
Please do. Yes.
You're in the Cayman Islands. That is so awesome. I can tell you, I have never spoken to somebody that's actually in the Cayman Islands currently. Spoken to a lot of people that said they've been there, but you're actually there and you're on a task force assignment working at a luxury hotel.
I am. So I love that you started the conversation just a flow of significance of titles because sometimes growing in the career, you get so stuck on, I need to be a director, I need to be a general manager, I need to be this title, and it becomes your identity. And through my career of luxury hotels, it kind of naturally, organically came. So the Kylie Ray of Sunshine nickname, right? We talk about nicknames. So if you were to have a nickname, and it's focused on what you do, but more purpose driven than just the transactional. I am a coach, I'm a consultant, I am a like that's to speak the language so people understand what you do. But the fun creative side that is bigger picture is what is your ideal title, and your dream title is director of hospitality. Like, how amazing is that? Mine started as entry level manager growing through the career. So my story is server assistant to general manager by 30, and then also went the path post COVID of consulting, coaching, training, mentor, those similar words. Um,
Nice.
and through my entry level stage, middle of my career of being in management, I found front office manager on the property gets hit with solving problems, and can you do it in a positive way? And that was the gap that I found. So I started to get called the director of happiness because I said we can do this in a positive way, and went down positive psychology path and combined that in service. And so my nickname, if you see LinkedIn, it'll say Director of Happiness or Chief Optimism Officer. I recently self-proclaimed a promotion for myself to be a COO and giving that a new title. Because if you go to someone and say, I
Yeah.
need to speak to the manager, and you're in raw angry mode, I mean, you're managing emotions, emotional intelligence, and you're managing the practical problems that exist. But sometimes it's deeper than that, and really working on creative problem solving is fun for the service with a smile training that I put together. But through my career, that point of the title is it's more fun when you get introduced as a director of hospitality, is it not?
Yeah, it is. I mean, and if I
Smile.
was a guest that had a problem, right, and I'm like, rawr, and I'm speaking to the director of hospitality, I know I'm like, wow, okay, it would actually make me, it would disarm me a little bit. So this is the right person to be talking to,
So I
even
say,
though every person's the right person, but it doesn't matter about title. But I like that. It's using the psychology of it in a
and
smart
I
way,
think
in a positive way.
everyone can be if you own it. So before I had the physical official title of manager, I was a front desk agent back in the day, like before 2008 when the recession hit and everyone got impacted, right? We
Yep.
cut a lot of staff. If you remember years ago when I first started in the industry, we were loaded with managers for managers on top of managers, and they were always in meetings doing bigger picture things and focusing on all
I
the
was one
details.
of the I was a regional, back to titles. I was a regional director of operations at a company, and my region was the Mid Atlantic region between like New York and Washington D.C. And I had about 20 hotels in operation that was part of my region, and about 5 or 6 hotels at all times that we were pre-opening or in development. Most of them were branded Marriott and Hilton. Most of them were select service. We had a couple luxury boutiques around 2007, 8, and then 9, and then during the recession. I agree with you. Everything started to change a little bit after like 9/11. After that happened, there was some reducing of roles such as HR and above property training and development. And then we came back pretty quickly, and then the recession hit, and it lasted probably a bit longer than anyone expected, but it was a deep dip, and all those managers, and that really it hurt our industry in many ways, not from a financial perspective, but from like the optimism to say like, if I was a front desk agent and I saw my front office manager working every day, and that was inspiring to me, and then I saw maybe a general manager, I said, wow, I can do that, and then maybe someday I can do that. Who does the general manager report to? Oh, they report to a regional director. Wow, I really like people and training. So back then I might say like, hey, maybe I'll start working for the HR department and start doing some training. But then what happens when those roles are eliminated or spread out? And that's what happened during that time, I think. And that crushes a bit of the optimism that somebody has in their career. So that's when you got started, right around then, particularly in hotels.
In the front office, yes.
What a
And
way to start. Yeah, I bet.
it was interesting. I started as a server assistant in food and beverage just for a few years while I was going to pastry school. I wanted to be that girl that had a little cute cafe and made cookies and coffee and made people smile. And it developed into crying in the kitchen in my internship because I was like the only girl and like squeezing all the lemons, make my fingers pruny, and I couldn't wear manicured nails.
Wow,
I
talk about hands-on leadership, hands-on experience. Yeah,
Yeah. I love to cook, more hobby for family and for fun, but
me too.
I love it. Do you do more culinary or more or pastry?
Culinary. But my daughter loves pastries and loves the baking and things like that. I call it, I'm more rustic, and meaning I'll throw in a bunch of ingredients and not measure any of them. And she is very precise, which is a great baker, right? You need to have a half teaspoon, not a 3/4 teaspoon of something. I am, so that tells you a little bit about my personality and hers. And so, but we work very well together. It's very similar to how we work together with people in hotels, right? We're very different backgrounds and personalities, and you have some people that are very precise and like things have to be just right, and then you got people that are more like blah and like this is what we're gonna do. Let's write the plan as it's happening, and that's more like me. And I actually got started in luxury in a place that didn't have luxury before. I grew up in southeastern Connecticut. I was born in southern Rhode Island and grew up in southeastern Connecticut, and it's not known for much before the early '90s. It wasn't known for much other than being where the General Dynamics and defense contracting, and there's some really nice destination places like Mystic, Connecticut that have like the tall ships and revolutionary times and nice tourist development. They got the ocean and the bays over there and the places to come. And it's mainly known as a stopover between Boston and New York. But then the Mashantucket Pequot tribe owned, thousands of acres, Native American reservation, and they got approved for high stakes bingo in like $10,000 a hand
Whoa.
in the '80s, and then that grew to being approved as one of the. They were the, I guess, innovators, or I guess first massive Native American tribes that got approved for poker, slot machines, online gaming, and eventually full-on casino. So they opened up Foxwoods Resort Casino, or Foxwoods Casino, right at the year that I graduated high school. And so they were like, you can be a hot dog vendor. You can work in the warehouse. And I was like, I went to the interview and they're like, you should be a hot dog vendor. So I was like, okay, cool. And then like I went there one day, my first day, and they said, you're going to work in the warehouse. I said, okay, no problem. So I worked in the warehouse where like they brought in everything. All they had was restaurants, and at that time, and they were just getting started with the slot machines. And so I was part of the crew that like helped bring up the slot machines up into the floor and helped bring up all their giant cases of food to the restaurants. And then I went to college for a couple years. Was not a good student. I was super interested in working, but I was also super interested in other things at college other than studying. But I did go to school. I worked through school. I worked at Foxwoods, and then they opened up on New Year's Eve, 1993. They opened up the resort. Frank Sinatra was their opening act, and I wasn't working at the hotel yet, but I was still working in the warehouse. And I told my boss, I said, I want to work there. I want to work in a hotel. I just knew it. I knew everything. I was like, I want to meet people from around the world. I'll do anything. I'll sweep the floors or whatever. And so later that summer, I started working as a coat check, and then a concierge, and then a front desk agent very quickly. And after about a year and a half, that's when I stopped going to college, and I really dedicated to become a manager. And at that time, back to titles, they had front office shift managers, and then they had one front office manager, and then they had more managers, and then like a director of hotels, and then a vice president of hotels. And we were all kind of back there working together. And I just absolutely loved it. There's so much love in working there. It has lasted me for 30 years. And so eventually I had the same goal. I stayed there for like 4 or 5 years, became a front office shift manager. I was one of their youngest there. Didn't know anything about anything. Was mainly promoted, I think, because I had a great attitude, and I had a lot of guest compliments also. I was very motivated by positive feedback from our guests. Yeah, anytime I saw, it was pre-internet, so it was anytime I saw my name on a card for positive feedback, I just got a boost of adrenaline. It made me feel really good. I loved the idea of, serving people and making them, like, kind of surprising them with, like, I had no idea you could even do that. So that was my start. And then I went on, I moved away and did a bunch of stuff in Orlando and other places, and started from luxury. And then I went to more full service, like Marriott.
Yep.
And Hilton. And then early 2000s, I went into the select service world of Courtyards and Hilton Garden Inns, and then stayed there for a while until I was asked to, had a great opportunity to move down here to Charlotte with my family and start a management company, and work for the actual owner of the management company and a real estate investor. And I went head first into the world of, I learned as much as I could about just real estate investing but specifically with hotels. And that's when I kind of got that title of like asset manager, investment advisor, and it's good, but it's a very different world. And I've been sitting right in the middle ever since. And I've been independent, like you said, task force. I've jumped around and doing some task force stuff, but then I started Hospiamo as a social enterprise. And we started a nonprofit, also, bringing the things that we believe to be right for our industry and giving it a home a lot. So I do a lot of these talks and conversations. I like recording them, and thank you for recording this. And the idea of making new friends in the industry, Kylie, it's what attracted me initially to get into the industry, meeting new people. And for about 15 years or so, I've been away from the property like every single day. And I didn't realize that I had missed it so much. I really didn't realize it. So over the past couple of years, I've been kind of descending back to the property level and wanting to have, at the very least, virtual conversations like this with meeting new people that are inside and outside the business. I'm going to stop rambling on for a moment and talk to you, ask you about you're on a consulting or task force role right now. Are you still doing front office stuff? Are you into sales or other departments or anything like that?
I have mastered front of house operations from the rooms division front of house. So I am here supporting the front office leadership team. Thank you for sharing your story. It helps to understand. And I think that's part of the making friends is building the relationship. And that comes from understanding your story beyond the brand too. I mean, Kylie Ray of Sunshine, my goal is to inspire smiles and a reason for you to share a smile, and that's service. And that's the platform or the vehicle to be able to share the smile, the standards of service, and those kind of pieces. And it seems like you speak that same language and understand.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
I
I
appreciate
do.
you
And
sharing your.
that you on your brand and how we kind of met through school.com, it's SWAS. You say service with a smile, SWAS. Is that a program that you developed, or is it a methodology or an attitude? What is that?
All of the above. It is a program. So from Director of Happiness, if you say, what is your job title? Director of Happiness, Chief Optimism Officer. What do you do? I get paid to smile and solve problems. And that
Mhm.
was on the property level. But even beyond that, I've mentored plenty of individuals throughout their career on property and beyond. So I coach other coaches and I coach other leaders as they're developing other people. And the thought process of that is having a program versus just Kylie's opinions. It's a
Yeah.
framework, right? It's a framework to follow and it helps to guide and have key focus points that anyone can take on. And I found that service standards, like we speak the hotel language. And more than that, with your other experiences that you've shared, it does transfer to other industries. It's all service based. And that's kind of
Yep.
a simple concept that many people in the industry know or out of the industry know that if you are service based business owner, you're providing a service. And if you're a product based company, the B2Bs, B2Cs, and all the different letters, it's more than that. It's people taking care of people. If you are providing a product, you are a person providing a product for someone. And if you are providing a service, that's my sweet spot is the service part. But I introduced another title, throwing it out there, as an experience expert. Can you define the touch points of the journey? And you
Mm.
can relate to this as you're developing hotels and investing in properties. What does the journey look like for your owners, for your employees, for your guests? It's a process. Your pre-arrival, your arrival, your in-house, which is all the good stuff, the departure, and then the biggest piece that most people miss out on is the post-departure phase. That follow-up, that handwritten note, that invite back, the send you something for your birthday, even if you're not staying on property. Um, Maybe it's a dentist office, maybe it's a bank facility or financial advising office, maybe it's a construction company. I've found that service with a smile and those experiences that we both shared are applicable outside of luxury boutique hotels. And so I think
I
that's kind of
agree 100%. What you just went through I didn't know that I was learning it at the time, but my first job as a front desk agent, the property management system was the menu was in numbers. So the first one was reservations. Number two was front office. Number three was the or I should say, yeah. Number one was reservations. Two was check-in. Three was front office, and that's the stay. And then number four was accounting. And then just below that was what they called the focus department. And that was for our customers' ultimate satisfaction. And I thought that was really cool because that's what you said. That's after they leave. And then it's a full circle that comes right around. And I didn't know that that's what I was learning, but I was learning the guest path.
cool.
I was like, that's really cool. So somewhere out there, they found the hotel and the guest called and said, I want to stay there. And okay, book. What happens then? Well, you check in. What happens then? Number three, you're there. Like what does that mean? Like, do you have room service? Do you have you get the room cleaned? And what happens if an emergency happens? The lights go out, like all these different problems that could occur. And then there's the accounting, which was checkout. But the experience as full circle, I think I'll speak from the perspective of real estate investments, right? It is an often, it's undervalued part of the process that connects the last with the first. The meaning you got someone that just stayed there and they checked out and they're gone. You have their money, right? That's good, right? You made some revenue. Let's say they paid $100. It's probably much more where you are, I would think. um, the but now that you have their money, you have expenses. You got to use that to pay your employees, and you got sales and marketing. You got all these other expenses that happen. You got to pay for the land and the building and your mortgage. But from a real estate investment perspective, I have noticed that there's not a section that after you pay all those fixed expenses and everything, and they might be left over with 20 cents on the dollar. There's no budget on that says, let's put 1 cent or 2 cents on the dollar towards, especially for an independent hotel that's not Marriott or Hilton or a franchise. Let's put that back into loyalty and connection and our brand management beyond what was done in order to get that first customer in, the person that paid the $100, to get that person to come back and to stay connected with them. It is so undervalued to the point where it's not even budgeted, right? And it doesn't. I mean, there are plenty of research papers that have written that obviously say getting a return customer that's already been there is much less expensive than getting a new one. So why wouldn't you take just a cent or of something 1% to say we might be able to get 100 of our guests to return for $100? That's money well spent because they're probably going to pay more. They've already been there. They've got trust. They're going to buy more things in the gift shop and, buy sweaters and brands and things like that. Or, let's think about spending $500 to go get 100 more guests that have never stayed here before. It just makes no sense. And so it's money well spent.
I believe 100%, and that's exactly the framework. So I love that you shared that from the PMS system because I've never seen that, and the focus was valuable takeaway. I took notes on that. And I think a lot of it is back in the day with all of those managers, even though we had so many managers, when I was a front desk agent very at the beginning, I found the opportunity from a culture of a luxury hotel that instilled empowerment and ownership in the even line levels. So if someone came to the front desk before I knew the director of happiness concept, I was a front desk agent and I said, okay, what would my manager do? Because they're in meetings all day. If I tell the guest, oh, I'm sorry, they're still in meetings, they're doing big manager things, but they're not here to say, I'm sorry, your light bulb burnt out and we fixed it. Like these little things that are a big deal to the guests. Sometimes the managers have higher best use of other things that can you train your mid-level leadership or your line level employees to have that empowerment to be, I'm the acting manager on duty is what I would tell people because they didn't want to talk to me as a title, a traditional title of an agent. And I said, I'm stuck in this place as a agent. And yes, I'm new, but they don't know I'm new. Like they don't know. They just want someone to fix their problem. And if they don't have the manager tag or the extra hat or whatever it is, it's just building trust. So I said, you know what, the official manager on duty title, shift manager is away from the desk. I'm the acting manager on duty. Can I help you? And that changed, I guess, psychology back then. I didn't realize what it was, but to be able to shift it and build the trust to say, oh, you can help me. And you're providing that extra open arms of saying, I understand that you need to be cared for. I'm here to nurture and care for you and say, this is the challenge that you're expressing to me. This is how we can fix it. And this is the extra degree. Like that little
Right.
framework of service. And your point is it's loyalty, it's quality. Back in the day, they used to have director of quality and manager of quality. And some of my favorite persons in the industries were the science of customer service and the engagement and
Mm.
full engagement. And there's a book called The Power of Full Engagement. And then you could get me on a whole nother tangent. It's a whole nother conversation.
Good. My first job when I went to Orlando, Florida, and I started working for Marriott. I was actually working for Interstate Hotels, a franchisee. Eventually, they got they're part of Aimbridge now, and they have what 1,600 hotels under management. But that was my first experience working for a branded property. It was a 500 room Marriott in Orlando, and my first job was the director of guest services. No, sorry, guest services. Yeah, manager of guest services or something like that. GSM, guest services manager. I had enough experience with my first job at Foxwoods to have been a manager. I didn't know anything about the financials. I'd never even seen a P&L before. But I knew the night audit. I worked the night audit. I was the manager of night audit. I knew about team building and the responsibilities. I knew about emergencies and solving problems. And so I think that at the time that was a new position, direct manager of guest services. And I had a boss that was the director of quality. And I was like, that's awesome. It's so great that that position exists. And it doesn't really exist that much anymore. But that's okay. It probably has a different title. It's been spread out. I think have you ever worked for Marriott?
Almost 10 years of my life was
You
Ritz
did.
Carlton. Yes.
Oh, very cool. So you know about the learn process.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very cool. So it's amazing that there's tens of thousands of people that work in hotels they probably have their own kind of like acronym. But for I make a joke, Kylie, saying we have millions of listeners and watchers, but to our millions of fans out there, the learn process, Kylie already knows, but it's an acronym that means listen, empathize, apologize, react, and notify, or respond and notify. Back then they said react. When I
Yep.
first started, they said, no, that's too negative. So now it's like respond. And so it was at Foxwoods, they didn't say learn process, but they gave us this amazing training, and they called it something like diffuse or disarm or something like that. It was like a diffusing. And the visual was when somebody's upset, a guest is dealing with something, to you, it might sound like they can't get into their room because their key doesn't work. But to them, they are a bomb that could potentially go off because they just went up to their room, tried their key. They might have kids. They might be doing something else. They might have to go to the bathroom. And then they have to go all the way down and say, my key didn't work. And they taught us this empathy, essentially, to say, in your own mind, I got such a wonderful training, and I always thank them publicly because it was so amazing as a young person to say, oh, it's probably a really big deal to this person. And even if I roll my eyes, that's going to potentially explode the situation. So what do? You diffuse it. And
Yeah.
how do you diffuse it? And so they gave us the process, and the learn process was I remember going through it, all my Marriott training, which I think is phenomenal. I still remember like every minute and have done it a few more times. The listening part, that's how I eventually did the learn process in my personal life. You know, my wife will tell you. she she used to get upset because you're pulling that learn process, aren't you? I was like, I'm listening, I'm empathizing. But it's great life training, so did you get your start at a Ritz Carlton? Is that where you oh, that's awesome.
I
Such just
did.
amazing way to start your life in hotels.
I love
That's
that
the
you
greatest.
connected it to personal too, because I think that that's a big miss in a lot of properties, and maybe that's independent as well as the big companies. Um, the large corporations will say the employees are their greatest most important asset in the service commitment to their guests. And something that I really, really love, being classically trained Ritz Carlton for almost 10 years, and the first 10 years of my career was mastering the Credo card, something that you may have known from reading the gold standard or going through the industry of your own. I know that Marriott had gold standards or service values, I guess, are what they're called, service values. The Credo card is such a magical concept that is a pocket of values. So any industry, any company, we'll say any company that has taken the time to define their core brand values, their mission, their vision values. I've worked with one of my favorite mentors. It was a privately owned ranch resort in Texas. He's run a chemical company and just done incredible business in the music industry. I mean, he's in a lot of things. And he calls it MVV, mission, vision, values. And what I found as I'm building out Service with a Smile is the core piece is the values. When you're not sure how to solve a problem through the learn process, you listen, you empathize, you apologize. That R, respond, or I'll say resolve, is if you're not sure how to make that decision, you can be resourceful by falling back to the values. The core values will guide you, the mission will guide you, and that gives you
So
direction
good.
to be able to solve. And so with Carlton, there's 12 core gold standards or service values, and it's on this card. The employee promise is on the card. The credo or their mission statement is on the card. And when I first started, I was a server assistant. I got paid to serve bread, water, and a smile. And I polished a lot of silverware. A
Wow.
lot. And also, you said Orlando. I started at the Ritz Carlton Grand Lakes, Orlando.
Oh, you did.
Hmm?
I quick story. So I was in 1999, I think, probably maybe early 2000. I was in that role, director of or manager of guest service at the Airport Marriott in Orlando, and we got a visit. It was uh, I was working late. I worked like I think the 1 to 11 shift, but I was like, I just loved it. I worked there all the time. So it was like 9 o'clock at night, and uh, somebody, it was like the bellman or somebody like that, said, "Hey," uh, and at that time of night, it was probably a Tuesday. It wasn't. We didn't have like a ton of managers there. The general manager had gone home, and I think I was probably like the highest ranking person. That was a manager. They're like, "We have people here that's from Marriott. That they want to do some inspection." I was like, "Oh, what?" And you know who it was? It was Horst Schultz. Yeah, I did not know who he was at the time. It was Horst Schultz and his corporate. For those listening, Horst Schultz, look him up. Ritz Carlton.
The co-founder of Ritz Carlton, former
Yeah.
president of the company. He's written books. I've had the pleasure of meeting him as well at one point in my life, and
You're giving
just
me chills.
the
And
gentleman. Yes.
it was him and his. He had a construction guy and a development guy there, and they didn't want to do an inspection. They were staying there, and they wanted to talk to somebody at the property just to like give their business card so I could pass it along to the general manager to say that they were there, right? And they were there doing their pre-development for the Grand Lakes Ritz Carlton. They were
No.
visiting the site and they were like looking around for sites. I didn't know anything about the location, but I ended up, they invited me out that night and I went out with them. So it was those three and me. They said, we went to a couple different places. And we want you to show us around. And I was like, I called the general manager at home. I was like, do you know who Horst Schultz is? Like, he's saying they want you. He goes, yeah, drive him around. Like, just drive him around. Do what you do. And we had fun. And then I never heard from him after that. I was very ambitious. I was probably like, ooh, this guy's going to give me a good job someday. But little did I know what that man created. At that time, I was like, wow, Ritz Carlton, big wig. But I was very early in my career, and I didn't realize the influence and the impact that man, and also Ritz Carlton has had on our industry. And I have since gotten his books and read them and watched all his videos. I'm so, I guess, envious of you for having worked there for so long. It's such a beautiful, beautiful story and company. And yeah, that was pretty cool meeting him. And you got a chance to meet him. And did you get to know him, or what was that like?
It was a brief interaction, and it doesn't really phase me of meeting celebrities. And I mean, I always say people taking care of people. So even the most people who have achieved a lot in their life are still people. And so if you can humbly show up with your heart and a smile, I think that that's really people just want to be listened to and loved. And if you can create
Yeah.
that, yes, they want a clean room and they want the products and the finest of things from a luxury perspective. But if you're looking at Forbes 5-star and AAA Diamond, all of the awards, Forbes itself is 75-80% service focused. So you can still have all of the core basis of your product line, but service is everything. So for me, growing up in the luxury, in the Ritz Carlton, the top 1% luxury service provider in the world, started with a motto of ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen written on a note, written on a beverage napkin. I just love it. But
Wow.
being able to meet Horst Schulze to me was I know who you are. I know what you've achieved. I am young in the industry, and it's such an honor to meet you. Him and his wife were staying at the hotel that I was a young manager at, and I got to walk them to their room. Maybe it was a key not working. I don't remember exactly, but getting to meet him, like that was it. Check it off the list. And
Yeah.
just forever a fan by the way that his first impression was true to what I understand and admire about the brand. It's to be one of the co-founders who created it, but also lives it actively is so respectful. I just honor that and love that so much.
I'm glad that you said the word honor. It's an honorable profession. Very specifically, sometimes we, when I say we, just we in the industry of hospitality, say, we forget about using the word hotel specifically. And even if you look it up, like hotel industry, it'll come up hospitality industry, right? It'll come up, whatever. And it confuses people. And to the point where I did my own research project around the terminology that we use in the industry. And for a while, even companies that I helped to start, and you look up all these hotel management companies and real estate investors and hotels and whatever they might be, they always use most of them, 90% of them use the word hospitality in their name rather than hotels. And there's a psychology around the reason why they do that, and I get it. But there is something very unique about the hotel industry, and I have been able to boil it down to a couple facts, and that is it has to do with three facts. It has to do with the frequency of transactions, financial transactions, paying with your credit card, coming in, checking out, buying a bag of chips. The guests are high frequency transactions, whereas a restaurant, you purchase something and you eat and then you pay and you're out. The second one is the number of employees at the property level. It's a significant portion for all you out there. Usually it's like 30, possibly more percent of the entire expense budget, which is labor. And the number of employees that are there that work an 8 or 10-hour shift, there's a lot more than other pieces of real estate, such as office buildings or residential homes and things like that. And the third, the one that it wasn't shocking to me, but it was so obvious, and that is the length of stay. That when guests come in, it's 43 hours is the length of stay at this establishment at a hotel versus every single other service industry, Starbucks, Target, retail, that service is so important. So what does that mean to us in the hotel industry? I have found that that is what makes it mostly different. The fact that, you have a customer, you have somebody that's coming in there, and for 43 hours, comparing that to 45 minutes at the average length of stay at a Starbucks, right? Um, or, 4 hours at a Pearl Jam concert, or, just Pearl Jam's my favorite. And so Eddie Vedder's like my Horst Schulze. He's over there on my wall of fame there, my wall of inspiration. That's for another conversation. I'll tell you all about that. But the 43 hours. So what does that mean? It's I'm not I don't have a degree in psychology or anything like that, but Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that I wrote a bit of an article, mostly was a stream of consciousness, trying to understand what that means to us in the hotel industry. And it means that the longer that you stay, the more important safety and security is, and trust. And then you multiply that by about 10 if you're bringing somebody else with you, like a spouse or a child, or your boss, or you're part of a group or supervisor. All of that stuff is expanded, whereas it's still important if you walk into a Starbucks, for example, but it's not as important because you're not there for very long. So what are the chances that something's going to go wrong in 45 minutes versus the chance of something going wrong in 43 hours?
I love the statistic of that. That's great to have the number.
And it's just, it's a topic that I, for the past year, I got done with that. And again, it's an obvious thing, but I started really communicating to people that are technically outside the hotel industry, that might invest in a hotel. There might be an owner, there might be a management company, but I wanted to remind them of the how critically important those things are. And because there is just statistically, of course, you have a higher potential of things to go wrong, right? Do you know the comedian Nate Bargatze?
No, but to be fair, he probably doesn't know me either.
You're funny. That's funny. I like that.
Nate, what is his last name?
Bargatze. Bargatze, I think, or maybe a K in there.
No,
but if you look him up, he's become pretty popular over the past few years. He's got a podcast, and he's known for his deadpan delivery. Norm Macdonald is probably my favorite stand-up comedian of all time, and very deadpan, and very self-effusing, maybe deprecating. Well, anyways, he said he has a kind of a few hotel jokes because he travels a lot with, obviously, and he's very clean. Like he doesn't swear, he doesn't talk about anything, like, so kids watch him and find him funny. And I won't try to replicate what he says, but he says, I travel a lot, I stay in hotels a lot, and I think part of the act was around technology and how we're all trying to like improve things and make things go faster and more efficient. And he goes, I was in the you can look it up on YouTube. There's a little short. He says, I was in my hotel room in the bathroom, and the light was on, and I used the bathroom, and then I couldn't find the light switch. And he says, I really looked. I actually started crying because I couldn't find the light switch. And so I went out into the hallway looking for the light switch, and then the light went off. And so his joke was around the idea of like, hey, thanks hotel industry for trying to make things more efficient and like less touch and make me have to do less. And he goes, you know what? He says, I took offense to that because I'm really good at turning off lights. And he goes, I could go to any one of your houses right now and I could turn the lights off in your entire house. I'm really good. He goes, so give me some credit, hotel owners. I can do it. You don't have to do that. And so it was obviously a motion detector type thing. And you just reminded me of that. And it's, he probably doesn't know me either. I've never heard that before. That's, I like that. Do you say that a lot?
I've said it a few times. Sometimes it's just like,
yeah, that's funny. I like that. I'm gonna use that. Like you, I've likely you probably met a lot of celebrities, and my time at Foxwoods was I was spoiled because I became like the VIP manager, and we had a luxury floor that you could had private access to, and so anybody that was on like the concert or sports tour back in the mid 90s, I had the amazing opportunity to meet them face to face, and so many stories. And you had mentioned something earlier about the not being like shocked by celebrity or anything like that. I learned that, and they I would imagine the Ritz Carlton has something similar as far as their training, because you do interact with a lot of famous people and celebrity, and probably wealthy people just in general. But they said a couple things. One, never ask for an autograph, never ask for a photo, never do, and if you do, you're fired. Like there was like no tolerance,
Yep.
and that was part of the training. They didn't say if not you're fired, but it was like they were very, very, very serious about that, and like to the point where even if you see a famous person, don't even walk up to them and ask them if they need anything, because that would make them feel uncomfortable. They just want to be a regular person, which is what they are. And from those interactions, so I one, it's not a regret, but I wish I had photos of all the people I met because now I have kids, and I was like, hey, it would be cool to be like, hey, look at me and Aretha Franklin, or me and Conan O'Brien, or something like that. And but I don't have that. They're all just up here though. They're up here in my mind, and those are beautiful memories, and being able to make a father or a mother smile because you're taking good care of their kids is the same thing as making Aretha Franklin smile, but there's just something different about it. And the idea of uh, celebrity, they deal with and they deal with a different kind of stress. They deal with fame. They deal with a constant microscope on their life, and now, of course, it's much. It's getting more intense. With having a microscope on their life. And it gave me empathy serving people in hotels, because I was like, you know what, everybody's the same, but like if you're someone that's ultra famous where everybody in the whole planet knows who you are, oh my God, that must be like,
You can't
sure,
walk
that's,
in through the main entrance. You have to go under the tunnel of the subway to go in through security, to go up a secret private
ah,
employee elevator that's blocked off by security. Like, it's an interesting tunnel of life. It's definitely different. But what I love about it is that
yeah,
they often have their travel needs dialed in. So it's a little bit more difficult to anticipate and personalize their service because it is kind of more at a distance. But I think that's a big message. If someone who is traveling, whether you're in the industry or whether you're just an average traveler or an avid traveler, wealthy traveler, not wealthy traveler, whatever you want to define yourself as, who are
hmm,
listening, millions of listeners, it's being sure to communicate. I think that's one of the biggest things. Communication will help 99.9% of any opportunity that will happen. We are in the human industry of service, so things will go upside down, but being human and taking ownership to find a way to sincerely say, I know I'm a stranger, I'm the manager on duty, but thank you for allowing me to help you, and having that communication. Before any of that even happens, that pre-arrival phase is so important. Celebrities will have their personal assistant communicate, or travel agent, or wealthy individuals will have their travel representative or executive assistant reach out in advance and say arrival time, departure time, transportation, what we need, king size bed, chocolate covered frozen blueberries, like whatever specific
yeah.
that they need. I've heard things like 17 specific rectangle Kleenex boxes.
Is that the oddest or most unique request? They wanted 17
It was a specific,
triangle shaped tissue
like,
boxes.
you know, the long rectangle. My grandmother used to have them, like the
Oh,
old,
yes, yes.
not the square ones. Does that make sense? I mean, I guess they're all rectangle, but
Yeah, the more flat, yeah, rectangle ones. Oh my God. And they,
and it's these interesting, like, what? But it's their preference is, and to be able to act on it. If you say what you're looking for, it's a lot easier to prevent room for opportunity or for any opportunity to happen. You can say, this is what I clearly stated I need, and we've done everything in advance. So it's not day of arrival checking in. Oh, I brought 17 extra people. I'm just using 17 because of the tissue boxes.
Yeah.
I have all these extra people and I can't have a king bed and I need connecting rooms and I need an early check-in and I need. And if you can set yourself up as a guest to set up the team to be able to serve you better, not come in and say, do you know who I am? Do you know what I need? And we're like, we tried to reach out to you prior to arrival. We want to offer you the best experience possible. What do you need? And if you know what you need beforehand, like take 2 minutes and say, your concierge, I need this prior to arrival. Is this possible? What do I need to make it happen? If you want to guarantee an early check-in, if you want to guarantee an upgraded room, your package gives that to you based upon availability. My favorite 3 words within hospitality. Based upon availability. I'm running a fully occupied resort, 264 guest rooms. I can't upgrade every single Platinum Rewards member. I can't upgrade every single anniversary guest. Every single person who travels and has saved their life come here for a weekend wants all the things. But what are your needs? What are your non-negotiables? Can you communicate them in advance so that we can best deliver your first impression? Then leaves room from that foundation is already met. That leaves room for all the magic of over delivering for anticipation and extra care. And we know some of your preferences, so we can act on it. So, example, someone is here in Cayman, and it's him and his wife, and it's their first time here. And they spoke to the concierge in advance, only asked a little bit, like, can you help me with a dive trip or something about a boat trip, which is common because we're surrounded by the Caribbean Sea. So you should always go on the water or in the water or under the water and all the things. And so we met the expectations, maybe a little bit above and beyond, like a welcome amenity, something not too bad. I spoke to the guest and they said, it just seemed like communication could have been improved. And so their experience is they're world travelers. They're usually going to these elite hotels overseas in Europe and in Asia, and they have WhatsApp and text and speed dial and premium suite guests at this property give you that personal concierge. You're not paying premium at an executive suite. Not every single guest in this property have a personal butler, personal concierge.
Right.
So we have the general team providing service, and they're stretched sometimes. So for what he was expecting was elite suite, one-on-one attention, and he received still luxury service, but not at that level. So his expectations we didn't meet. Anybody else that would have been, wow, this is great, loved the boat trip, but he had some disconnects, and he shared that with me, and he appreciated it. So we were able to make an adjustment based on what he needed by understanding what his preferences are. But above and beyond, by understanding that he's in a new territory, he's at a new hotel on a new island, not knowing anybody or anything, and simply wanting to go on a dive trip. And he mentioned a question about, like, is in addition to the driving map, is there a dive map? And I worked with another concierge. She put together a pretty printed on the cardstock of a dive map and made this really cute island themed, dive themed amenity, send it to the room as a welcome to paradise. Like, so happy you're here. We have a text message platform, so we can text to guests, and we often do throughout their stay. We just didn't have him registered into that platform, and that's exactly what he was looking for, that communication. So from the focus of focusing on the quality experience, personalized service, and people taking care of people, I say delight is in the details, and sometimes it's overlooked. And that's the part that you're saying isn't always budgeted. But in addition to the importance of things will happen, problem solving, budgeting for problem solving, also budgeting for that personalized service, to be able to have the freedom to have some spend to personalize the experience and not just send chocolate covered strawberries because it's their first time here or their anniversary. Like, everyone can go somewhere. I love chocolate covered strawberries, but like, make it personal.
Something that broke my heart a little bit was going from luxury, right, where I was, and then going to like even like full service or upper upscale hotels like Marriott and larger property, convention properties. at Foxwoods, on a scale from 1 to 10, uh, front desk agent, concierge, manager, whatever it might be, I was regularly part of something that had a high guest expectation, right? So, or a guest expectation before they arrived, because it was a special occasion. It might be, going to a casino with your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever that is, or on a date. They asked for things, right? And when we first opened up, I mean, we were like the first thing in southeastern Connecticut, which is, a lot of like they call it uh, in the something in the woods. I can't remember the woods of Connecticut. But there's like woods there. I mean, their Native American reservation was mostly trees and woods, and then they built this castle there that eventually was for 25 years the largest square foot gaming facility in the entire world, until someone in China built a larger one. So it's quite impactful to the area, and so people like just wanted to come visit, and um, they wanted their expectation were very, very high, and that was the environment that I was in. So even asking for, I got really excited when somebody would say, "Hey, I'm there with my anniversary. Is there anything special we can do?" I'd be like, "Oh yeah, man, we can do this. We can do this. We can do this," and I would have a whole process, right? And if they wanted chocolate covered strawberries with a bottle of champagne and some whipped cream and like a chocolate dip or whatever it might be, I would be taking notes, and then I would not the learn process, but I would need to notify somebody. It was a whole process, room service, and put this on your schedule, and this is what, put the notes in the PMS and all that. Now, then I went to full service Marriott, and that happened less. And so if it was happening on a level 8 out of 10 at this luxury 4 diamond resort, then at Marriott it was happening on a level like 4 or 5, which I didn't get as much personal satisfaction because people asked for things less. And so the things that they wanted and expressed by saying, "This is what I want," it decreased. And so I started to ask them myself to say, "You had mentioned that you're going to be on a vacation, or are you with your kids, or are you is this an anniversary? Is it special? Do you want to do anything special? Because we can." And they're like, "Oh yeah, I didn't even know that you guys did stuff like that." And this is an airport property, but still, it's a big Marriott. And so I would have to ask them. And that's how, I'm just naturally, I guess, good at guest service and stuff like that. I liked that. I like to create experiences. And then when I went to the worst title that we ever created in the hotel industry, the limited service world of Hampton Inns and Courtyards, we knew we got it wrong because we invented another word called select service, right? And so that crushed the expectations of the regular guests, which is 90% of the travelers in the US, right? They're staying at regular hotels. They're not staying at Ritz Carltons. They're not staying at big resorts on the water and things like that. But they're still guests, and they still, every time I talk to a family member or any traveler, I said, go to these regular hotels and ask them for stuff the same way that you would there. It's probably not going to be, "Oh, sure, I can put chocolate strawberries in your room at an airport, Hilton Garden Inn." They might not have a process for that, so they might fumble around and you might not actually get it. They might actually say, "I have no way to do that," but still ask, right? Because those budgets that don't exist for those kind of things, like a concierge at a Hilton Garden Inn, they don't happen because people stopped asking for things. And I think guests are the driver of culture. They're the driver of global impact and cultural appreciation for different cultures. And it got to the point where they stopped asking because they just assumed, "Oh, it's just a Courtyard by Marriott. It's not the Ritz Carlton." But still, you can ask for things. You can still have a very special occasion. Go out for a lot of people just go if they're local, they'll go get a hotel room with their wife or husband and just want a night away, right? And ask for it. And every guest I talk to, and there's much less now that I'm not at the property every day, but I remember reminding them, I said, we can do stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like we can, and it'll be a process. It'll be clunky, but, keep on pushing, cause that's, these budgets I think need to be expanded a little bit more about those type of things at all hotels.
On that relationship 100%. I've got about 5 minutes before I've got to tap out, but
Yeah, we can wrap up here, Kylie. You're a new friend. I really loved this conversation. We do a weekly live podcast or whatever they call it, but I do a weekly LinkedIn live. It's with my brother Matt up in Boston, and talk about expectations and different. We're very different. We look different. We act different. We're in different industries. He's in the he started off as a electrical engineer, got into software development, and now he's in the has jumped headfirst into agile project management, Scrum, and he's into talent management now. He's helping people find jobs in that world. And I'm in the hotel hospitality industry. So our weekly gathering is all about these different worlds coming together, and we've had some great conversations with architects and designers, all the way to front desk agents and hotel general managers, to people in real estate and mergers and acquisitions and taxes and things like that. So I would love to have you on. Let's do we'll figure out a topic to talk about. But at the end of the day, this topic here is meeting somebody new, and I cherish that and I honor that. Someone that really has gone through the steps into really realizing the honor of what the hotel industry does and the people that work in it. So this has been really wonderful talking with you.
thank you. And thank you for sharing your heart for the love of hospitality. I resonate with that message and the impact that you're making in the world. It's a great honor to get to be part of it. So live on LinkedIn on a Thursday sounds amazing. And
Yeah,
the brand is already listing out a couple of other people I can suggest for your show and for you to be featured on, that I think would just continue to spread the message.
that's what it's all about. So I'm going to leave it at that. We'll continue to spread the message. And so be safe and happy, with all your ray of sunshine around you in the Cayman Islands. This has been really wonderful. I'm going to go back onto Google Maps and look up the Cayman Islands and try to realize how far away it is. And I got to get there someday. So thanks a lot for spending the time.
Thank you. And a quick shout out, if you have time to Google the Kimpton Seafire Resort and Spa. It's a 5-star, 5-diamond resort with a 5-star spa. It's very beautiful. That's where you can find me on the map.
The Kimpton, say that again? The Kimpton
Seafire. So when the sun meets the sea, it's looks like it's on fire. So Seafire.
Oh man, I love that. I'm going to get some visuals on Google for that too. I love Kimpton. That's for another episode. I love the history of Kimpton. Thank you so much for sharing everything. It's great getting to know you, and we're going to keep on going. We'll keep on doing this again sometime.
Thank you, Adam. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Kylie.